On this channel, we take pictures and talk about the business of film photography. And boy, over the past week, the business of film photography has been booming. Just last week, we got the formal announcement of the new Pentax 17 film camera. The first new film camera to come from Pentax in, decades. And while I've not got my hands on the new Pentax 17 yet, but that isn't the only exciting film camera on the horizon, as we have a completely newly manufactured 35mm camera coming from Mint in the form of the Rollei 35AF. So in this video, we're going to talk about everything we know about the new Rollei 35AF. And now that we've got some real clear details about the Pentax, we're going to spend some time in this video talking about the relative value propositions of both of these cameras. So let's get into it. So the first thing to know about this new camera, according to Mint's founder, Gary Ho, this camera has been in development for over 5 years. So this isn't something just kind of fly-by-night operation they just decided to do one day. They've been working on this for a really long time. So we can be assured that when this camera does finally release, it's going to be pretty well thought out. And Gary has also pointed out that this has been a really expensive project, the most expensive project that Mint has ever done. So that's important to consider as well when we're thinking about things like the price they're asking. And one of the most interesting details about the new Mint Rollei 35AF is actually the name. The camera is called the Rollei 35AF. Well, Mint isn't Rollei. Rollei was a historical photography company, and even to this day, they still sell film. And it was really cool of them to grant Mint the ability to use their name on this camera that, for all intents and purposes, looks like a true successor to the original Rollei 35mm cameras. And that's the next thing about the camera, is you can take one look at this camera and see very clearly that it does take a lot of inspiration from one of the old Rollei 35s. The only distinction being that this camera is an autofocus version. The original Rollei 35 cameras, as we well know, are rangefinder editions. And so for a lot of us folks out there, the inclusion of autofocus with this camera is a major selling point. And you can contrast that with the Pentax, which has a zone focusing system. And the Rollei coming with autofocus is incredible. It's going to make the camera much more approachable and really beginner friendly. And the next thing to know about the camera is it's going to be really compact. Drawing its inspiration from the original Rollei 35 rangefinders, these babies are super small, but despite its diminutive size, they are going to be able to get the full 35mm frame, exposure frame out of this camera. It's going to shoot proper 35mm frames. So though 36 shots a roll, you're going to get that wonderful 35mm frame that we're all used to. And again, contrasting with the Pentax 17, it's going to be in horizontal orientation. That's super important. One of the most common criticisms that people levied at the Pentax 17 after its announcement was that the camera's default picture-taking style was portrait orientation. So to take a landscape, you'd actually have to turn the camera sideways. And for any of us out there who have touched a camera, that's not generally how things work. The normal orientation of a camera is landscape. And this camera, staying true to form, it's a 35mm camera, normal 35mm horizontal orientation. So that's cool. Also, the aperture range is going to be f2.8 through f16. f2.8, a reasonably bright lens, and chalk this up as a win versus the new Pentax 17 camera. This lens is a little bright. It's also worth noting that this is a 35mm prime lens as well. I'm a sucker for a good sharp prime lens. It's good stuff. Mint went on to clarify a few things about this lens as well. At least for a time, there was a rumor circulating that maybe they were going to use old spare parts from original Rollei cameras and salvage the lenses to be able to use them in their camera, and that they would actually make a new lens for this camera themselves. Au contraire, founder on his blog post pointed out that actually this was a newly developed, newly formulated 35mm lens. 5-element, all-glass lens with modern multi-coatings. So all good news on that front. This reckons to be a really good lens. And another thing that's pretty obvious from looking at the pictures is this is an all-metal design. There's not a lot of plastic included in the construction at all, at least on the outside. It looks like an original Rollei 35 camera. Those look like they were all carved out of a hunk of metal. So does this. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And it should go without saying at this point, but much like the Pentax 17, this camera is really important for the hobby. Something I wanted to spend a little more time on about the camera though was its autofocus system. Again, this is a major difference with the Pentax 17 camera. And according to Gary Ho, the original Rollei 35 is renowned for its compactness and its unique design, earning it a special place in the Camera Hall of Fame. However, not everyone can master the manual zone focusing system, as the focus can only be guesses. And he's right about this, and this is one of the things that I was concerned about the Pentax 17. I think it's kind of a big ask to expect folks, newcomers to the hobby, to grab a Pentax 17 and try to figure that out. Maybe some folks will, but that focusing choice will definitely be a sticking point for some folks. He went on to point out that it's actually a LiDAR-based system. So you've got the modern autofocus tech in this camera. It's going to be reasonably fast, reasonably accurate. So really cool. Here was the area that I was probably the most concerned about with respect to the Rollei 35AF. And this is where I thought the Pentax may have a win. But with the Pentax's recent announcement of $500, Mint has stated that the Rollei 35AF costs between $650 and $800 US. So let's just split the difference and say $725. But we compare that with the $500 of the Pentax 17. And I think if that is the proposed pricing, this is honestly a better deal to me perhaps than the Pentax 17. The fact that the Pentax doesn't come with autofocus and it's a half frame style camera, the Rollei 35 day by day is starting to look like a much better proposition. But we'll wait till we get it in hand to actually see. These are the first two real proper newly developed film cameras that we've had in a really long time. And it's important that these cameras succeed. They sell a lot of copies so that the other manufacturers take notice and we continue to get good new cameras in the future. In a lot of ways, the newly announced Rollei 35AF took a lot of the pain points from the original Rollei camera and fixed them. The fact that this is a newly announced, newly manufactured film camera, 35mm design, it's going to be a premium point-shoot camera. I think it's going to be appealing to a lot of folks. And what the Pentax 17 may make up for, but its price advantage, being $500 versus, let's say, $725, the fact that you get some additional features with the Rollei 35AF is going to make up for that. I think it's probably going to have a little better build quality, and we've already talked a lot about the autofocus. So let me know in the comments what you think about the Rollei 35AF. So if you're going to pick up, it's definitely on my radar, and I'm hoping to get one in my hands rather soon. But if you want more details on the new Pentax camera, I've made a couple of videos about it already, and I'm going to stick them both on the screen right now for you to check out. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to pet this cat, and we'll see ya. Tell him bye. Tell them bye. Bye, everybody.